looking real bummy today. You was bony and looking too funny today. I don't care, nigga still make change. Let's go.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Chatting with Cheeze podcast. I'm your host, Fat Cheeze, and y'all already know the motto, no gimmicks, only the real. This is episode 34. Y'all know what I need from y'all. Continue to smash that subscribe button. We on our way to 200 subscribers. We almost there. And do not forget to like and share the content, and let's go ahead and jump right into it. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and just call it like what it is, man. I want to say congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles on being the Super Bowl 59 winners. They had a great performance, a dominant performance. They left no stone unturned, and they went out there and did what they were supposed to do. So that's my first topic of the day. Eagles dominate the Chiefs in Super Bowl 59. Ending score, Eagles 40, Chiefs 22. It was just a hell of a game all around for the Eagles. I think they went out there with a plan. They stuck to it, and they went out there and just completely dominated the game. If you paid attention and watched the game closely, it never was close. It never was a doubt in anyone's mind that the Chiefs actually could, possibly come back in this game or make it a game. Philly came out there, punched them in the mouth, and there was no way for them to respond from that. Jalen Hurts went 17 to 22. 221 yards with 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. He had a 119.7 QB rate. He rushed for 72 yards with a touchdown. Saquon Barkley wasn't as impactful as we've watched him be throughout this season. He only rushed for 57 yards with 0 touchdowns. But I believe Kansas City came in with a game plan saying, and I said it last time, on my last episode, I believe Kansas City came in with a game plan. Well, not on my last episode, but 2 episodes ago when I talked about the Super Bowl and, gave my predictions and everything. I said I felt like Kansas City had to come in with a game plan to not allow Saquon Barkley to take over and, just run roughshod over everything and control the game and winning for Philly. I said I felt like they would have to come in there, stop Saquon, and make Jalen Hurts beat him. And that's exactly what happened. I think they came in there. Spagnuolo said, we are not going to allow, we're going to fill every gap and do everything we can to not allow Saquon Barkley to take over this game. And they did that. But unfortunately, Jalen Hurts, to me, probably played the best game of his career. Devontae Smith chipped in with 4 receptions, 69 yards and a touchdown. A.J. Brown had 3 receptions, 43 yards and a touchdown. Jahan Dotson pitched in. He gave you 2 receptions, 42 yards, and 0 touchdowns. Saquon Barkley had 6 receptions for 40 yards, and Dallas Goedert only had 2 receptions for 27 yards. But on the offensive side of things, I just think Jalen Hurts came in there and said he figured that the goal for them was to stop Saquon Barkley, and he went out there and proved what I've been knew what he was. I think it's time now for people, and I said it. We got to start showing Jalen Hurts some love. He went out there and did exactly what he was supposed to do. He had 1 turnover throughout the entirety of the game, but the linebacker, I think it was Barrett, I can't think of his name, Bolton. Bolton was bearing down on him. He had to get the ball out quick. Didn't see the safety. Tried to throw a deep ball. The safety ended up coming over, intercepting the ball. But besides that, Jalen Hurts had a phenomenal game. I think he finally decided, instead of me holding on to this ball for a long time, I'm gonna go. If they giving me lanes to run through, I'm gonna go ahead and run. And he took off and did what he was supposed to do with his legs. He killed them on both sides. He killed them from his passing ability and he killed them throwing the ball. He killed them with his passing ability and he killed them with running, with rushing. He did it on both ends. And honestly speaking, if they don't call that BS call offensive pass interference on A.J. Brown in the first drive, I believe Philly put up 50 on them. And I think that's the reason why I picked Philly. Sometimes people like to go with their emotions over actually analyzing and knowing the game of football. Kansas City, are they a great team? Absolutely. Do they have a Hall of Fame quarterback? Absolutely. Do they have a Hall of Fame head coach? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, that's only going to take you but so far. I felt like going into the game, Philadelphia had an all-around better team than Kansas City. People wanted to kept using, oh well, they got Patrick Mahomes. I ain't bet against Patrick Mahomes and them all year. But if I'm paying attention to the games and see what's going on, I'm seeing Kansas City squeak by one possession game. They only winning by one possession or a last second field goal. Barely beating teams like Denver, barely beating teams like the Raiders, barely beating these teams. And I'm watching Philly do a demolition job on majority of the teams they playing. So it's like, 1 + 1 = 2. I'm going with what I seen. I seen what Philly did against, Washington, who to me was the hottest team in the playoffs leading up to that game. And then I'm watching what Kansas City doing on their side, where they not, they winning games, of course, but they're not doing it in a dominating fashion. So that's why I went with Philly, and I was proven right. All along, I think Philly offense did what they were supposed to do. They got the ball on a couple of short fields, and they punched it into the end zone. Jalen Hurts with a push touchdown. He hit AJ Brown after him and Sirianni had some kind of exchange on the sideline. They ended up on that next joint hitting on that next. I think Patrick Mahomes went out there and threw an interception. Then they hit AJ Brown for the short touchdown. Then they ended up hitting Devontae for a bomb down the field, but. Enough about the offense, because like I said, the offense did what they were supposed to do. They played great. They had a great game. But this defense was amazing. And I said it. I said the way that this defense is playing, I believe that they match up perfectly with everything Kansas City was trying to do on the offensive side of the ball. They get home with 4. So before I even get into what the defense, everything the defense did, I think Vic Fangio deserves a standing ovation for how he transformed this defense throughout the season. Because if y'all remember correctly, for the people that have been tuning into my episodes every week, at the beginning of the season, Philly defense was playing atrocious. Do we remember the last minute drive they allowed Atlanta to go on earlier in the season? Do you remember what Philly allowed Baker Mayfield and the Bucs to do to them earlier in the season? And I had an episode saying what was going on with Philly, and I said that defense was the main problem. After their bye week, and actually in that game, going into that Washington game here when they played Washington in Washington, when Jaden Daniels went down and threw the last second touchdown after Philly getting 5 turnovers, I think that they took that loss personal, because I think they felt like if Jalen Hurts never gets hurt in that game, they beat Washington. But I think what happened in that game, it sparked something, because they were the number 1 defense headed into that game. But what they did after that bye week, after that loss, and then after that bye week was truly amazing. Truly amazing. Vic Fangio went in there and said, we still got some things we got to tweak, and they were unstoppable. I think they went 15-1 after the bye week, but they was playing amazing. And that one loss was to Washington because, Jalen Hurts ultimately got hurt. But shout out to Vic Fangio and how he transformed this defense and those guys just buying in. But the defense played amazing. The defense to me was the storyline of this game. Not to take away nothing from Jalen Hurts and everything they did, but to be able to rush 4, drop back 7, and be able to still get home. They sacked Patrick Mahomes 10 times. Everybody got involved. Jalen Carter, Josh Sweat had a hell of a game. Nolan Smith, everybody was getting involved. Patrick Mahomes was seeing ghosts. And when I really knew they had Patrick Mahomes where they wanted him was when he threw that pick 6 to Cooper DeJean, because we don't really see, he threw it right to him. We don't see Patrick Mahomes make mistakes like that. We don't see it. We haven't seen it in quite some time. When he threw that pick 6 to Cooper DeJean, I said Patrick Mahomes seeing ghosts. And they were hitting him. The one with Jalen Carter pushing them all in his face mask. They had him seeing ghosts all day. But Zach Bond had 3 solo tackles, 1 interception, and 1 pass breakup. Same thing with Zach Bond. He threw it right to him. The defense completely owned this entire game. They came in there on a mission, and I think they took it personal from that 2022 loss. Remember what C.J. Gardner-Johnson said? He felt like if, the turf situation, if that hadn't happened, he felt like they would have beat them then. So they came in there with a point to prove. Josh Sweat, I just mentioned him, 2 solo tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks. Milton Williams had a hell of a game. 3 solo tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. He caused the fumble. That's when Jalen Carter pushed Patrick Mahomes in the face, and he actually recovered it. Cooper DeJean had a hell of a game, and also was his birthday. Happy belated birthday. 3 solo tackles, 1 interception, 1 pass deflection, 1 touchdown. And then Jordan Davis, 2 solo tackles, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 sack. The defense just owned this game, and I felt like they didn't allow the Chiefs to get comfortable. Patrick Mahomes had a terrible game, for the most part, but honestly, you can't really blame Patrick Mahomes too much. Of course, the onus of the blame is going to go on him because he's the quarterback, but Travis Kelce played terrible. DeAndre Hopkins played terrible. The only one that gave Kansas City went out there and looked like, they weren't in La La Land was Xavier Worthy. He had a breakout game, and I expect, for him to continue to build his stuff up heading on because he had a hell of a game in this. But other than that, Philly dominated this game from beginning to end. I think you could see it from the first drive. Like I said, if A.J. Brown don't get called for that offensive pass interference, I believe Philly go down this field. I believe Philly put up 50. Nothing Andy Reid called, nothing Spagnuolo could have called, nothing Patrick Mahomes could have done with what they had to deal with on Sunday. On the Chiefs side of things, we just discussed that Patrick Mahomes went 21-32. He threw for 257 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He had a 95.4 QB rate. He rushed for 25 yards. They got nothing in the run game. Absolutely nothing. Kareem Hunt, 3 attempts, 9 yards, 0 touchdowns. Isaiah Pacheco, 3 attempts, 7 yards, 0 touchdowns. Samaje Perine, 1 attempt, 7 yards, 0 touchdowns. On the wide receiver side of the ball, like I said, Xavier Worthy, 8 receptions, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns. Other than him, nothing. Travis Kelce, 4 receptions, 39 yards, 0 touchdown. DeAndre Hopkins, 2 receptions, 18 yards, 1 touchdown. Juju Smith-Schuster, 2 receptions, 16 yards, 0 touchdowns. Hollywood Brown, 2 receptions, 15 yards, 0 touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes had a QBR of 11.4 in the Super Bowl. It's the second lowest Super Bowl QBR since it became a stat in 2006. It's also the second lowest in Mahomes' career. This is the first half stats for the Chiefs. They were 6 for 14 with 33 passing yards, 2 interceptions, and 3 sacks. Patrick Mahomes was sacked 3 times. Time of possession, Philly dominated 36 minutes to 23. Total yards, Philly 345 yards, Chiefs 275. Passing yards, Chiefs had more passing yards, but I think they were down such a big chunk. The running game basically became obsolete, but they wasn't getting anything in the running game before they got down so many points. But in the passing yards, Eagles 210, Chiefs 226 yards. Rushing, Eagles 135 to the Chiefs 49 yards. And for turnovers, Philly turned the ball over once while the Chiefs turned it over 3 times. But I felt like the Chiefs just ran into a buzzsaw like all the other teams Philly played. Eventually it's going to catch up to you. When you only squeaking by, and I know a lot of people like to say the ref thing and everything like that, but I seen it watching the Chiefs all year, and I said it. This is not the same Chiefs team we've been watching. I think the greatness of Patrick Mahomes just saved them a lot. Travis Kelce had a down year, if we being honest. He had a down year. Hollywood Brown was injured for a chunk of the season and finally came back towards the end. They grabbed Juju Smith-Schuster and they traded for DeAndre Hopkins. But let's be honest, DeAndre Hopkins is pretty long in the tooth. He's on the downside of his career. But it was nothing that they can do. It was nothing. It was no. Patrick Mahomes couldn't be great enough to beat what he was going up against. Philly just had the better overall team, and I felt like I knew that was going to be the reason. That's why I picked Philly to win, because I felt like Philly had the better overall team. And once Patrick Mahomes started hearing them footsteps and seeing ghosts, it was all she wrote from there. I mean, for them to go into half down 24-0. I mean, come on now. Was it 24-0 at half? I believe 24-27. I think it was 24 though. But for them to go down in the half by that much. Now I was thinking, well, maybe they come out of half, they do some adjusting. It was the same thing in the second half. It was nothing Andy Reid could have went in there and said to them at halftime. They just playing a better team. Philly just a better team. And that's pretty much how it went. I think, like I said, on the defensive side, they went in there with a game plan. We gonna stop Saquon Barkley, but I think how I'm gonna say is, I don't think that, for the most part, I think it shocked a lot of people how the game went. I don't think a lot of people A lot of people pick Kansas City, but I think it's just the way that they lost. It's not the fact that they lost. It's like they were completely it didn't look like Kansas City belonged there. They were completely dominated. I think that was the thing. And I think they thought going into the game, we don't trust. People can say what they want, but they went to the game saying we don't trust Jalen Hurts. We think if we could stop Saquon Barkley, like a whole bunch of other people thought. And I said it on my 2 episodes ago. I said Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. I don't understand. All this man has done is won. That's all he's done, and he proved it. And now I'm hoping that after this win, the man get the respect he deserved. Super Bowl MVP. To me, this was the best game of his career. This was the best game of his career. That throw to Devontae Smith. Once he's seen that they were so committed, he's watching the safeties, the linebackers. Once he's seen that they were committed to stopping Saquon, he dotted them up. That throw to Devontae Smith was a dot. It was a dot. You know what I'm saying? It was just, Philly just went out there and did what they were supposed to do. It's just that simple. Nick Sirianni, you could say what you want. You could talk about their fans being obnoxious. You could talk about the head coach. But one thing you can't say, shout out to Howie Roseman, who put that team together. This team was built from, I remember when they first drafted Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith and they made the play. That if you want to build a winning culture and follow Howie Roseman blueprint. The best, one of the best offensive lines. To me, the best defensive line in football. That linebacker core going to add Zach Bond, who New Orleans had, rushing the passer. They said, no, we're going to put you at linebacker. Going back to go get C.J. Gardner-Johnson to add to that secondary with Blankenship. Then you draft Quinion Mitchell, who to me is going to be one of the top corners in this league, with Cooper DeJean. You still got Slay. Maddox, who was benched for Cooper DeJean. You know what I'm saying? He coming in making plays. This is how you build a football team. This is how you build a football team. And the crazy thing about it is that same team is basically going to be back next year. I don't think they have many free agents or many people that they have to pay. So that same team is going to be back next year. And, I think, man, Philly, if they can do the right things and just keep adding on to what they already have, man, Philly, we could possibly see Philly back in the same situation next year. So moving on to my next topic. What do I believe was the biggest issue in the Kansas City Chiefs' loss against the Eagles in the Super Bowl? If I had to say right now, and I know a lot of people, the main thing is going to be the offensive line. Yes, the offensive line played terrible in that game. But let's be honest. With that Philly front four and the way that they've been getting to the quarterback all year, this is the number one defense we talking about. The way that they've been able to get to the quarterback all year, I don't think, it's very far-fetched. Not saying people should be like, all right, they had a bad game, but look who they was going against. But no, Philly's been dominating everybody's offensive line for majority of the year. But, yeah, their offensive line had a terrible game. Patrick Mahomes was not able to get comfortable. He had guys being pushed back in his face the entire time. Like I said, when he threw that pick six, I said, yeah, Patrick Mahomes is seeing ghosts. So, number one, I'm going to say the offensive line. But the main thing that I seen, and this is what, some people fall victim to, I just believe Kansas City's ownership fell in love with the fact that we got a Hall of Fame quarterback, young man, they fell in love with the greatness of Patrick Mahomes. And I think that they felt like we don't got to go out and we don't got to go as hard to recoup wide receiver talent, because Patrick Mahomes can make it work with anybody. And I think we've seen this year that that's not the case. You got to go get him a true number one receiver. I'm sorry. Hollywood Brown, I like Xavier Worthy, but let's be honest, Xavier Worthy is a deep threat and a gadget guy. He's not a number one receiver. Hollywood Brown is not going to cut it. Travis Kelce is getting up there. He's getting up there. He's on, to me, I would say Travis Kelce's on the downside of his career, and we already discussed DeAndre Hopkins. He's long in the tooth and on the backside of his career. As you notice, he's moving on from team to team to team, but you got to go get him a true number one receiver. Having a great quarterback is the main thing, absolutely, but you got to go get that guy, get him a number one receiver. If you get him a number one receiver, they'll be right back to where they were this year. And mind you, he did this with the weapons that he had. So just imagine if you go get him a true number one wide receiver. You can't just sit back and rest on your laurels and say, okay, we got Patrick Mahomes. He's great. We know he can win in the AFC. We know he can get us to a Super Bowl. But when you run into buzzsaws like Philly, you gonna need a guy. You gonna need that go-to guy. Like, you know what I'm saying? They haven't really had a for sure number one since Tyreek Hill has been gone. But Travis Kelce was making up for that production. But like I said, now Travis Kelce was making up for that, you know what I'm saying, that production after Tyreek Hill left. Now, I feel like Travis Kelce is starting to hit the downside of his career. Now he contemplating maybe even retirement. But I think that was the main thing. So I would put that, the lack of weapons as my number 2. If I had to say my number 3 thing, I would say just the play of Patrick Mahomes, but I don't really see how you could blame Patrick Mahomes. I don't really see how you could even blame the coaching staff, honestly. I just think that they ran into a buzzsaw. They ran into a better team. And I know I've been reiterating the same thing this whole episode, but they ran into a better team. And I don't think that it's nothing, that's nothing to hang your head about. Philly was just an all-around better team, and they showed it. We've seen, Kansas City play all these close games this year, and like I said, a lot of people want to blame the refs. If that's what you choose to do, that's fine. But I just think that, the greatness of Patrick Mahomes was able to squeak them past a couple of these tough games that they had this year that came down to the wire. It wasn't going to work this time. And Philly came in with a vendetta from what happened in 2022 because they felt that they should have beat them then. So that's all I think. So if I had to say the biggest issues for me, I would say the offensive line, number 1. They're going to have to fix that offensive line. Both of the Super Bowls that they lost came because of the lack of the offense. The offensive line was dominated. The first one was against Tampa Bay and now Philly. So I'm going to put the offensive line as number 1. They got to fix that. That got to be their main offseason goal, to fix that offensive line. Number 2, I would say the lack of weapons. You have to go out and try to get this man a legit wide receiver 1. I like Worthy. I believe now he's on the upside. Now, after what he did, this is the Super Bowl is something that he can build off of. And, now he can excel. I don't know what's going to happen with Hollywood Brown if they're going to decide to bring him back or whatever. DeAndre Hopkins, he's not going to cut it. I think you're going to have to go get him a bona fide number 1 receiver. So I would put offensive line number 1, lack of weapons number 3, and then, lack of weapons number 2. And then my third thing, I would just say Patrick Mahomes, just because of the interceptions. Because I believe if he don't, I thought they was going to lose the game regardless, but I think if he don't throw those interceptions, one was a pick 6 and one was in the red zone. I think if he don't throw those interceptions, the game doesn't quite get that out of hand. But, unfortunately, that's what happened. So I would say those was my biggest issues with the Chiefs' loss in that game. Third topic I got for y'all. So, how much credit now does Jalen Hurts deserve? Me personally, and this is just me off the head, I don't need no stats. I don't need nothing like that for this topic. I feel like Jalen Hurts, it's time now to finally give Jalen Hurts his credit. I said it in the first segment. A lot of people, Jalen Hurts been getting a lot of flack over the years. People saying that, they didn't believe he was good. They believed that the weapons around him made him who he was. And I never understood that argument because, like I said, with Jalen Hurts, it's like that's what your front office is supposed to do. That's how you build winning teams. Every offseason, every GM and owner should be going out looking to try to make their team better. It's not his fault. It's not his fault that they put a great team around him. That's what their job is. That's what they get paid to do. Just like he get paid to go out there and make plays. I'm so happy for Jalen Hurts, bro, and I'm not an Eagles fan, but I'm so happy for Jalen Hurts. I think he deserved this. He deserved his moment. He took it with grace. He was very humble about it. I like everything he said at the end. I like the fact that he said, if people hating and talking trash about me going to give me a Super Bowl, then I'll take it. But he deserved it because nobody thought that. Everybody came in with the mindset that I know, all Kansas City got to do is go out there and stop Saquon. If they stop Saquon, then they win the game. And Jalen Hurts said, no, not on my watch, because he remembered what happened in 2022 where he played the game of his life and came up just short in the Super Bowl against Kansas City. He said not today, and they didn't have Saquon in that game, but I like the fact that he went out there and he just remained poised. Like I said, he had one interception, but Nick Bolton, the linebacker, was beaming down right at him, and he just had to make a quick decision. He put the ball up in harm's way, and the safety intercepted it. But other than that, Jalen Hurts played a phenomenal game. To me, this is the best game of his career. He used his feet. He didn't hold the ball long like he's been doing and being criticized for all year. He ran when he needed to run, made the proper throws. Like I said, that throw to Devontae Smith was a dot. The one going across the middle to A.J. Brown when he was wide open, that was a hell of a play. After A.J. Brown, seemed to get a little upset on the sidelines with him and Nick Sirianni had an exchange. He had another ball to A.J. Brown when he was going down the sideline like a back shoulder throw. If they didn't call that offensive pass interference in that first drive, I believe they go down and score on that drive. But Jalen Hurts took this game. This game meant something to Jalen Hurts, and I'm so happy for him. I'm glad that he won the MVP, and now all that stuff. I think right now, people don't want to admit it. He may not be top 5, but Jalen Hurts is the top 10 quarterback in this league. He's a top 10 quarterback because all the man has done since leaving Alabama, going to Oklahoma, coming over into the NFL. Since he's been in the NFL, all he's done is won. Since he even, in his last little bit of college, like I spoke on, so he deserves that credit. And I think as far as the NFC goes, I will put him, honestly, maybe number 3. I think in the NFC, who would you put as number in the NFC? You can go Jared Goff as number in the I ain't gonna lie, in the NFC, I'm going Jalen Hurts number 1, and then I think you going Jaden Daniels. Some people could argue and say they would put Jaden Daniels as number 1. But being as though Jalen Hurts just won the Super Bowl, I'm going to go Hurts 1, Jaden Daniels 2. Then I think, it's the pick of the litter after that. But, yeah, man, shout out to Jalen Hurts. That was a hell of a game, bro. Jalen Hurts got that old school swag, too. And I seen the moment that he had with Devontae Smith on the sideline where Devontae Smith was a little emotional. I love that, man, because they've been in it together. And those two, he knows what it means for Jalen Hurts, because remember, Devontae Smith was the one that caught that game-winning touchdown and in the national championship for Alabama from Tua. But remember, Jalen Hurts was benched. So Devontae Smith basically been with Jalen Hurts throughout this whole journey that he's been on, and for them, and then he was with them when they lost in the Super Bowl the first time. So for them to finally be able to enjoy that moment together, I think that was awesome. But shout out to Jalen Hurts, man. And one thing, you got some support over here at the Chatting with Cheese podcast, man. Jalen Hurts, give that man his credit. He deserve it. He's been, like I said, ever since he's been in the NFL, the man ain't done nothing but won, and now he's a Super Bowl champion. Give that man his credit. And last but not least, I want to give a shout out to my man Kevin Durant, my favorite player of all time. My 2 favorite players of all time is Allen Iverson, number 1, and Kevin Durant. It was always Allen Iverson first, then KD, but KD, KD's now my number 1. KD's my favorite player of all time. Last night, he reached 30,000 points for a career, man. I think that's a hell of a milestone. KD is in some, he joined Rare Air, and I think this just further, adds on to the thing, everything that he's done in the everything that he's done, in the NBA. And I don't think people understand, man. Honestly, to me, Kevin Durant is the greatest scorer of all time. I know people may say Michael Jordan. They may want to say Kobe. I'm going Kevin Durant. For him to be 7 feet tall, to be able to dribble, to be able to score from anywhere on the floor. He can score in the paint. He can score in the mid-range. He can score from the 3. KD is the reason that we're seeing a bunch of these guys that we see in the NBA today. KD is the reason for Victor Wembanyama. KD is the reason for Chet Holmgren. KD is the reason that you see these 7 foot tall, skinny guys, coming into the league, dribbling and doing everything now, man. And I think, he's still performing at a very high level after coming off an Achilles injury. Sometimes we got to take that into consideration. You're doing this after coming off of an Achilles injury. And I think, a lot of people like to give him flack for the Golden State move and everything like that. I understand. But one thing you can't say is Kevin Durant's talent is undeniable. Kevin Durant is a top 10 player of all time in the NBA. And you can say what you want. Kevin Durant, you can't name 10 players all time better than Kevin Durant. You can't do it. You can't do it. It's just that simple. You know what I'm saying? For him to be playing better now after coming off of an Achilles injury than he was before, that's absolutely amazing, bro. And just imagine the injuries he had beforehand. Just imagine if KD had straight clean seasons with no injuries, where he would be on the all-time scoring list, bro. So I just want to give my favorite player a shout out, man. That's a hell of an accomplishment to, you know what I'm saying, reach 30,000 points. And mind you, he's 36 years old. He's still playing at a very high level. So by the end of his career, it's no telling, where this thing might end up at. But I just had to give him a shout out. The Suns not playing good. It's upsetting me. But, KD still doing this thing at 36 years old. Mind you, after playing all summer in the Olympics, still coming out, doing this thing, giving buckets. He a walking bucket. So I just wanted to, briefly give my man, my favorite player, Kevin Durant, a shout out. Hopefully one day, bro, I can have you on the podcast and we could, chop it up. But shout out to KD, 30,000 points. That's amazing, bro. And, keep doing your thing. But that's going to wrap it up for this episode, man. I appreciate y'all for locking in with me each and every week. Y'all know what I need from y'all. Like I said, subscribe to that. Keep pushing that subscribe button. We on our way to 200 subscribers. Also, like and share the content. And I'll see y'all next time.